Good afternoon. This is Joe Pryor with the virtual realestateteam.com in Oklahoma City, a part of Redbud Realty and Associates. And today is part 4 of our I.N.V.E.S.T series, where we talk about investing in Oklahoma City real estate. And being the fourth, we're taking the letter E out of I.N.V.E.S.T and talking about exit strategy. Now, exit strategy is something that we discuss up front before we ever get started. Now, that kind of is that the cart before the horse type idea, chicken or the egg, but what it is something that really is important to establish what your game plan is going to be and what your strategy is. You know, back when I was young and we learned English composition in school, they told us to always write the first sentence, the last sentence, and the thesis statement. So the first sentence kind of gets everything started, investing in real estate. The thesis statement is, why am I investing in real estate? And then the final statement is, how does it all end? Where do we end up where? Where do we want to go? And investing and putting together a game plan is the same way. We know you want to invest in real estate because you've heard about the potential and the return on investment and the relative low risk as versus other investments. So then we want that thesis statement. We want to know, where do you want to end up? What are we trying to get to here? Is investing something that's short-term, long-term? Is it for your son or daughter's college education? Is it for your retirement? And then where do you want to be? Let me give you an example of how this works. Let's say you're a first-time investor, you're 30 years old, and we work together and you say, you know, by the time I'm 65, I'd like to have 10 properties paid for, and I want them to be over $2 million in terms of net worth. Well, that's where we talk about an exit strategy and work towards that goal. So for instance, we say, well, that's 10 properties. We want to make sure that we buy maybe 10 of those in the first 5 years, because if you're 30 and 65, that's 35 years. Then if we get them up front, then about the time that you're 65, you've had positive cash flow. You've had 30 years to pay off the mortgage, which means that the person that's renting the property is paying for your investment, and there you are. And so we look for positive cash flow, we look for good equity to start with, and we look with the idea that we're going to pay things off at a particular point. Now, one of the strategies also may be what's called a 1031 tax-deferred exchange. We may decide that we want to modify the strategy and get to 15. So after those 5 years, maybe 10 years down the road, we take 2 of those properties, we sell them, take all the cash that we've made from those 2 properties, and what the government allows you to do is reinvest in, say, as many as 6 more properties. And you don't pay any taxes. You don't pay any recapture tax. You don't pay any capital gains. So that may be a part of that exit strategy that we talk about. It's very important in terms of where you are in life that we decide how we're going to get there. So a 45-year-old versus a 30-year-old, probably going to have a different strategy. So that's what we want to get to at that particular point. So when you are 65, you can say, look, I've got some options here. I can just keep the properties for a little while longer and keep that cash flow going. Maybe it's $10,000 a month or more. I can sell them and say, you know, I've made a lot of money in that particular period of time, and I'll pay the capital gains and the recapture tax. Or, like a lot of people, you go ahead and give it to your kids at some point, because essentially when you die, you're not going to be spending that money. And when you give this to your children, then the depreciation schedule, the basis, starts all over again for them. They don't have to pay those taxes on there, and then they can have the rental properties. And this is something that you can leave your children. This is what we'll work with you on to make sure that the strategy is right and we end up where you want to be. So when it really comes down to it, that E doesn't just merely stand for exit strategy. It also stands for entry strategy, because that's what we do at the beginning to help you build wealth by investing in Oklahoma City real estate. This is Joe Pryor with the virtual realestateteam.com in Oklahoma City, where we deliver traditional real estate values at the speed of technology.